we have to move beyond the idea of just having kind of hope that something will happen. It's about time we do something, since, we're always saying someone surely is going to do this.
This party needs to be built in a certain way in order to solve a lot of the problems that we face in our movement, in order to move past the limitations of the sectarian milieu of the socialist left, and in order to move past the limitations of work through social movements, through tenant unions and trade unions alone, through anti-imperialist organising alone, through the struggle for trans liberation alone, and so on and so forth.
For me, the party has to be more than just an electoral vehicle, and we have to also move beyond just social movements that are divorced from electoral politics. I'm along this line of thinking of the party as an articulator of social movements.
I'm standing for the Central Executive Committee because I want to deliver for the 850,000 people who first registered interest in our party what they were promised: a gigantic lever for popular political mobilisation, backing all sections of the exploited and oppressed, and providing a socialist perspective for real change.
Hi, I'm Anahita Zardoshti, and I'm running in London alongside Mel Mullings.
My name is Chloe Braddock. I'm running in the northwest of England alongside Haifa Alkanshali.
I'm Graham Jones. I'm standing in the West Midlands.
My name's Max Shanley. I'm a writer and socialist organiser now of about 18 years standing.
I've been political, I'd say, most of my life. I grew up in a political family. I grew up amongst communists in Iran. And I think just by the nature of where I was, it was very difficult to not be a political person, seeing kind of the effects of imperialism.
I would identify myself as a socialist organiser first and foremost. I've got a background across the different struggles that the working class is engaged in our country, particularly in tenant unionism. I was the secretary and founder of the Southampton Tenants Union.
I'm an organiser and author. In terms of political organising, I came up through housing activism, but other things like disability and LGBTQ issues have become equally important to me, but always through a socialist lens.
I watched my union branch, which was quite militant, get smashed by management. And it was coming up against the limits of industrial trade unionism that made me make a political turn and turning towards socialist politics.
So there wasn't any Your Party branch in Islington, so we decided to set one up, and we thought, let's give this a go. Our big aim and our question was, how do we get this community, and let's focus on Islington for now, within Your Party, and hope sort of the national level things will get sorted.
And I sort of came back into the political scene, and after having heard of various people I know about what was going on in the kind of run up to Your Party being launched, and being incredibly frustrated that history was about to repeat itself again. So I ended up writing a series of articles that kind of snowballed then into the formation of what is now known as the Democratic Socialists of Your Party. And we were the ones that got the question of collective leadership on the agenda, which was then adopted by the membership at founding conference.
You voted for a collective leadership.
Okay, so this is the big vote. This is the big one. They have voted for option B, that's collective leadership. So not a single leader. So what that means for the next few months, we're not going to see that sort of staged battle between Zara and Jeremy, but in fact a sort of much more nebulous process of developing, hopefully, a new cadre, a new layer, let's say, of leaders who can take the party forwards into the future.
And so by sort of, getting involved with Democratic Socialists, meeting loads of people that were already like-minded about this kind of the getting beyond the difficulties of the British left in particular, but the Western left as a whole. It become clear to me that there is a huge amount of potential in Your Party to shape a new socialist vehicle that is unlike any other socialist party we have. Is certainly unlike the Greens and the Labour Party, and the Grassroots Left programme is the best shot we have at that. In fact, I think that's underselling it. If anything, I think it is it.
in all of this, because the branch has been doing so well, people have been so engaged. We've run campaigns for the hunger strikers in Palestine. We have book clubs. We're going to run screenings. We have socials. There's a host of kind of working groups that we've set up for tenants organizing. We've helped strike. We helped go into picket lines for NEU and UCU workers who actually won a 7% pay rise and thanked our efforts a lot. And we just thought there's so much that we can actually be doing and getting on with. And the absolute kind of contempt that we've had from the center of the party is what has made me personally kind of think, well, we need to replicate this everywhere, and we can't allow this to just be something localized here, and we can't allow the structures of the party to be as undemocratic as they are. The Grassroots Left slate, part of our platform, we champion having a party of the whole left. And the reason that this is really important is that we need to encourage the formation of open factions. And that's really vital to keeping debates open, lively, and being able to basically get as many voices as possible heard in our movement, which is only going to add to a healthy ideas being generated and a healthy amount of debate. We can't act like we don't have any differences, and if we try to suppress those differences, they don't just go away. We want to be able to have our voices heard and to debate that in an open way, rather than having people doing things in kind of shadowy back rooms. If we discourage people for joining, especially if we if our aim is to have a mass socialist party and we start expelling socialists and communists, then it's never going to end well. We need to encourage people to work together. We need to encourage people to be able to openly debate these things.
The whole founding process of your party was a farce. It wasn't democratic. It was a joke. People were promised this grand democratic experiment of mass participation, and what they received instead was mass disempowerment. And as a result, we have ended up with a party that is incredibly top down and that reflects in its structures, practices and modes of behaviour the type of society it comes from, and it has inherited that from the Labour Party. One of the key questions then is, if you can't democratise your own party, how are you going to democratise the state? If you can't democratise the state, well, then you probably can't democratise the economy. And if you can't democratise the economy, can you actually have socialism, right? So rather than being abstract questions, they are expressly political. One of the things that the Grassroots Left slate is committed to is the creation of a democracy commission to basically go through a kind of refounding process over the course of 6 months that delivers on what was promised to people, which was this radically democratic mass socialist party of the working class. The democracy commission would be brought into being as a result of the Central Executive Committee passing a resolution to that effect. It will be made up of members of the CEC, some people with certain expertise appointed who have knowledge of different mechanisms of socialist organisation and political theory and so on, and potentially some people from amongst the membership chosen by sortition. Its aim would be to spark that refounding process, but also to create a framework through which members can seriously engage with the real fundamental questions of political organisation.
Empowered democratic branches are essential to the empowerment of members and the establishment of a vibrant internal democracy within our party. But for most people in the working class in this country, politics is generally something that is very alienating, and participation is limited basically to a vote every few years, maybe some door knocking if you're very, very keen, but very little actual democratic input. Because, of course, that's how capitalism works. It seeks to disempower the working class. Local branches have to be the foundation upon which our party is built. And I mean specifically democratic, participatory branches in which members don't simply receive directives from on high about going out and doing this or that in their local community to back this or that electoral campaign, but in which members actually set the direction. We are in favour of a vibrant participatory democracy which starts in the branches and culminates in a sovereign conference at a national level of delegates elected and instructed by their local branches, and those delegates together collectively inform the strategy and the development of the party. Now, how do we build those branches to be able to do that then? Well, they need some things that they haven't been given yet. They need funding. 50% of member dues in each area should go towards local organising, should go towards local branches to facilitate things, basic things like, for instance, room hire.
Various parts of the Grassroots Left programme want to have a focus on marginalised members of our communities. As it comes to sort of differentiation with other parties, other organisations, I think it has to go beyond merely sort of a defence of the marginalised, which can often be kind of presented in a sort of a charitable kind of frame, rather than one of solidarity. Now, to make an organisation broadly accessible is not just a nice addition for because we're being charitable to a marginalised group. It is actually very much about creating a genuinely democratic party. Organisationally, not many people are really having those conversations. We're still in a mode where a lot of people have moved into this more sort of intersectional way of thinking, but organisationally it's still you're on the left and then you kind of tack on these kind of identity issues. They're still going to be thought of, and for me it has to be much more central to our way of sort of analysing the systems that are in front of us. It has to be thought of as core to actually creating a genuinely working class democratic party. And integral to that is also the notion that it's not just about protection of the marginalized. It's not just about this kind of more this stuff of analyzing capitalism more deeply and understanding the interconnectedness of these different oppressions in capitalism. It's also about actually allowing people to organize in the party, and that's why we have a specific demand of organized sections around oppressions such as race, gender, disability, immigration status, LGBTQ issues, but also different forms of organized sections like the youth section that we'll be supporting. We don't just want to be rhetorically supporting LGBTQ people or disabled people. We want to be supporting people to organise autonomously around the issues which affect them most.
If you're not able to, gain experience of governing through governing your own organisation, right? How do we ever expect the working class to be able to rule society? It's really as simple as that. One of the primary tasks of the party moving forward is digging trenches in society. You were entirely correct that over the past kind of 50 years, because it's coming up to 50 years now, since you now call it neoliberalism, came into being, you know, the working class movement has been smashed. The working class has been fundamentally changed through a process of deindustrialization. It ain't what it used to be. You know, there might be 6.5 million trade union members in this country, but you only need to look at turnout in union elections to realise that maybe 650,000 of them are actually active, and the rest of them simply consider it a form of workplace insurance rather than as an act of class organisation and class solidarity. When we talk about democracy, democracy has to mean more than voting. It's about how you go about achieving your political ends, but how you go about projecting your vision of society. You know, we very much need to be digging trenches in society. There's no hop, skip, and a jump.
Vote Grassroots Left.
Vote Grassroots Left.
Vote Grassroots Left.
Vote Grassroots Left.